Biden and Trump clinch nominations, kicking off general election. President Joe Biden on March 12 secured the Democratic nomination after an overwhelming win in swing state Georgia, as his rival former President Donald Trump won enough delegates to clinch the Republican nomination when several primaries were called later that evening. President Trump also easily won the Georgia, Mississippi, and Washington Republican primaries on Tuesday, according to a projection by the Associated Press. I am honored that the broad coalition of voters representing the rich diversity of the Democratic Party across the country have put their faith in me once again to lead our party and our country in a moment when the threat Trump poses is greater than ever, President Biden said in a statement shared by the White House upon his becoming the presumptive Democratic Party's nominee. Pollster Rich Barries dubbed March 12 Mini Super Tuesday because several states are holding presidential preference contests. These primaries come a week after Super Tuesday, March 5, when both men scooped up hundreds of delegates across more than a dozen contests. As of 8 p.m. Eastern Time, President Trump held 1,132 delegates and needs another 83 delegates to reach the Republican Party's required count of 1,215 delegates. Other than Georgia, 2 other states held Republican and Democrat primaries, Mississippi and Washington. Additionally, Republicans are voting in Hawaii, which carries 19 delegates. On the Democrat side, Democrats Abroad, an organization of U.S. citizens who live outside the United States, is treated as a state for the presidential nomination process. That group carries 13 delegates. Voters in the Northern Mariana Islands carry 6 delegates. There, the president is facing off against Democrat Jason Palmer once again. With a surprise 91 votes cast in American Samoa on Super Tuesday, Mr. Palmer, a little-known presidential candidate, defeated President Biden unexpectedly, gaining 3 delegates. President Biden received the remaining 3 delegates in American Samoa. That outcome in American Samoa was among a few signals that President Biden did not perform as well as would be expected for a typical incumbent president. Despite the fact that President Trump faced well-funded inter-party opponents and President Biden did not, President Trump is poised to clinch the nomination before or at the same time as the incumbent. As an incumbent, President Biden should have run the table and should not have divided the delegates in American Samoa, nor should he have lost delegates because of uncommitted votes cast as a protest against him, Mr. Barries told his Inside the Numbers podcast audience on March 11. President Biden lost a total of 20 delegates because of those protest votes in Michigan, Hawaii, and Minnesota. But those numbers mattered little. On March 8, the Associated Press assigned all 224 delegates from Florida and 19 from Delaware to the sitting president. That was because neither of those states is holding a primary this year. Mr. Barries wrote in a blog post that the White House kept all other options off the ballots in those states, which triggered a rule regarding these states not being permitted to conduct uncontested primaries. Remaining contests a formality. Additional contests are set from now until early June, but those primaries have become formalities. President Trump and President Biden will be vying largely for bragging rights because they have both clinched their delegate counts and all major inter-party opponents have dropped out of the race. After the primaries are over, each party must make its nominee choice for the November 5 ballot official. Delegates will vote at the Republican National Convention, set for July 15 to 18 in Milwaukee. The Democrats' convention is set for August 19 to 22 in Chicago. Barring circumstances that could cause a brokered or contested convention, a Biden-Trump rematch is almost assured. But they might face a multi-way general election against one or more independent candidates vying for votes. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a vaccine safety advocate and environmental lawyer, is among several independent candidates who are still actively pursuing the presidency. Last week, the Biden campaign kicked off the general election season with a $30 million ad spend. The campaign also announced that it had its best fundraising day since launch on March 7, the day President Biden delivered his third State of the Union address. The president's speech came amid mounting concerns about his age and mental fitness in a critical election year. A New York Times/Siena College poll recently showed that President Biden's age is increasingly worrying Americans, including those who supported him in 2020. According to the poll, 61% of respondents believed President Biden was just too old to be an effective president. The poll was conducted 2 weeks after a special counsel raised concerns about his mental sharpness and characterized him in a report as a well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. Another poll by Bloomberg News/Morning Consult found President Biden is trailing President Trump in a hypothetical general election in all swing states, including Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, and Wisconsin. Many respondents expressed concerns about President Biden's age. The Associated Press contributed to this report.